Well, Wings4Kidz, what we do, we provide a free flight service for children, typically going through treatment for a serious or life-threatening condition. And so the sort of conditions that we talk about is like cancer, for example, paediatric renal patients, it could be cardio patients, and it's families that have to travel long distance from regional areas to access the medical treatment that you can only get at the major city hospitals. When a child is first diagnosed with cancer, for example, they'll go maybe to the local doctor and then end up at the hospital, and they suspect that there's like leukemia or a brain tumour. You'll become an inpatient at that point and you're flown down by air ambulance to one of the major city hospitals, where you might undergo an operation or commence a treatment. From that point onwards, the ongoing treatment that family has to go through, which might be several months or several years, they're not inpatient, and so they don't get air ambulance services. So these families then have to drive, catch a train, catch a bus, and it's just an incredibly arduous journey for that family going forward, where you've got a child who's undergoing treatment for chemotherapy or radiation treatment. They're very, very unwell. You know, long distance travel is just tough on them. So to be able to provide a free flight service to turn a car journey, which might be 2 to 3 days, into an hour and a half, just makes an enormous difference.
That would be massive.
Yeah, I remember one little boy that we looked after a few years ago that we did that final flight. We'd flown them every week for about 8 months, and then we had that final flight down to Bear Cottage at Manly, where they went into that care facility, waiting for the child to pass away. And there's fantastic organisations like Bear Cottage which will embrace the entire family, and they look after the siblings. They get everybody prepared for what's going to come. They look after the child who's gravely ill, and it's a very emotional time. It's very tough.
It must be tough for you as well, because are you able to remove yourself a bit from it, or
no?
Do you feel,
And so when you've got the news that it's going to be the last ever flight, it's difficult for all of us to deal with.
And when you're going through such an emotional journey as well, it does bring people closer together. Everyone wants to, it's just the natural instinct for people to want to be able to help.
There's a common need there, and you'll gravitate towards that. The kid becomes the focus, and the family, and you want to help, and you want the best for all concerned. So,
I think it's such a wonderful idea that you're able to eliminate that lengthy period of time of travelling to the hospitals for the family, because what would happen normally for someone who, say, lives in regional New South Wales and they have to go to Westmead? Like, what would be the process?
In cancer, for example, about 40% of the families break up. Because what they have to do, the child can't use a commercial flight because they're immunocompromised. Those families have to isolate themselves from the general public. They do it by road, they drive backwards and forwards, but with a very, very ill child doing long distance travel, it's tough. And then there's just the cost, the financial cost of doing the travel and accommodation. If you can't get into somewhere like Ronald McDonald House, you're going to have to pay for a hotel. So a 1 hour trip down there, into hospital, do the treatment, Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock, back in the car, down to the airport, hour flight home, and they've got 3 weeks at home to recover, get looked after, the family's together, in his own bed, resting well. I mean, we all know sleeping in a hospital bed is not great. So to be able to get that child back home and sleeping in their own bed, and mum being back there to look after the family, because typically it's mum down with one and dad's back at home trying to hold down the job.
And you can understand why the families do split up with that
well,
sort
he's
of
trying
thing.
to, dad's trying to, hold down his job. He's trying to do this kid's schoolwork. He's trying to do the lunches and do the washing, all the things that we do really badly. So dad's there trying to do that, and the place is falling apart at the seams. And then mum comes home at the end of the week hoping that it's all clean, and it's not. And you imagine the stress that causes in the relationship now. And that's what rips the families apart at the end of the day.
Terrible.
It's really, really tough.
So how does it make you feel to be able to provide this for these families?
Oh, look, it's incredibly fulfilling to know that you've made, and you see the difference on the day. The great thing about what we do, you do the flight and you see the immediate impact of what you've done and how you've helped the family and the difference it made to their life, and knowing that child is back home in a loving household and getting taken care of, and the parents are just so thankful. It's such a practical way of helping, but it means so much to them. It's such an important time of their life. I mean, this is the most traumatic time of their life.
That's definitely
ever.
true.
it's a life and death scenario.
Yeah.
Total uncertainty. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and everyone's on a journey with
Yeah,
it.
and the more people that rally in and can help and support, that have that community around you, which is what you're providing for them, it takes away that stress for the one who's sick and for the whole family.
Yeah, it's one important component that's dealt with, and they can focus on the other things to, you know, take care of themselves as parents, stay together for the kids, you know, keep the kids together, you know, just try to put a positive component back into this terrible situation that you've made an important difference in just one area of their life through this journey.
That is so important.